Welcome to the Pool Nation Podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesús, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I'm your host, Edgar De Jesús, and yes, I am the champion of Marco Polo, along with John J.J. Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas. Today, we're having an important conversation around upskilling and reskilling, what the difference really is, why it matters, and how it directly impacts growth, leadership, and long-term success in this industry. But before we do that, I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, the podcast where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we get started today, I want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the SPPA, Blu-ray Excel, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Poolside Tech, Pool Brain, and Kneedeck. We want to thank them for their continued support. And today we have no other than Leanne De Jesús. We are actually in the middle of, what do you call this, babe?
Yet another once-in-a-lifetime Texas freeze that I think we've gotten just about every year.
Right? I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about this all the time, and I joke around about it. We moved to Texas. Always everybody talked about the heat. Nobody talked about the cold. And they're like, oh, it doesn't get this cold except for once in 100 years and once in a generation and once in a lifetime and once in a century. And no, they just call it something different every year, and they just have a different name for it. So it pretty much snows where I'm at every year. Go outside right now. It's covered in snow. All the kids are out. We were looking out at the neighbors. The neighbors' kids are out. They're all playing out. They're really cute with the parents and stuff like that. So we decided to do a podcast, right? Like internet's been in and out a little bit today. So we're like, you know what? Let's just kind of do the podcast from home. And we got Leanne, and we got a really interesting topic that I want to talk about, and something that you're starting to hear a lot as of recent. And I think that'll be a great topic. But hey, before we do that, let's jump in and let's get some of these housekeeping notes out of the way really quick. And that is that we are headed out to the Western Pool and Spa Show, February 12th through the 14th. And we're going to be doing a bunch of classes out there. We're going to be doing managing workload and avoiding burnout, building a profitable business, basic principles of leadership, turning numbers into knowledge, time management strategies, understanding cost, pricing, and profitability, principles of pool chemistry, which that one will be done by none other than Alicia. We're going to be talking about innovations in algae treatment as well. And then the last class to close off will be building profit into every sector. So we have a whole bunch of stuff going on out there. Doreen's going to come out. John, Zach, and I will be out there as well. And we're excited to do that. And then from there, we literally just jump on a plane and fly straight over to San Antonio. And then we're going to be out at the show in San Antonio, the 15th through the 19th. We're going to be touching a bunch of classes out there as well. And then March, we turn around. It's going to be crazy. So March, what was it, babe? March 6th, 7th, we're going to the Orlando show.
Yeah.
And I roped Leanne into going with us. So I'm kind of excited about that. So myself and John and Janie and Leanne, we're going to be going to the show out there. We're excited about that. And then after that, March 12th and 13th, we have the Heritage Boot Camp out here in McKinney, Texas. We're going to be doing a lot of hands-on, a lot of business classes, a lot of technical classes. For those of you that are part of the Matrix, on the 14th, we're doing something special. So we are going to have our class for the Matrix, and that's going to be about 4 hours. That's going to be at Heritage. And then from there, we're all going to get together, and we're going to drive out to Anthony Narlick's ETX Pool Pros. He's actually opening up his retail store, and he's doing a special opening with the Matrix members. He's a member of the Matrix. So we're excited to get out there and kind of support him and hang out with him and check out his store and watch his success. It's fun to see all these people starting to expand and grow from there. And then we have 1 week off, and then we turn around and we go to Oxnard. We'll be out in Ray-Pac. And I got Leanne over there shaking her head like, I can't believe it. It's going to be,
I thought my travel was busy, but you got me beat this time.
So we'll be out at Ray-Pac the 27th and the 28th. And then the one thing that I forgot to say, at both of the boot camps, we are bringing back the $10,000 Pool Pro Challenge this year. It might be more money.
Great.
Might be more money at the PSB Expo, but here's what we decided to do, Leanne. We decided to up the ante.
I love it.
And so what's going to happen is this year, top 3 at every qualifier are going to be able to win money. So first place will win $500. And then second and third will take $250 each at each one of those qualifiers at each one of the boot camps. And then we will go over to Las Vegas, and we'll be not Las Vegas. This year we're in New Orleans. So this year we'll talk about that prize, but everybody stay tuned because that's coming. What else? We have some tea that we can't spill, right?
We've got big tea you can't spill. Yeah.
We got
that's gonna be a big one.
2 big ones.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there's 2. And those are huge.
Those are like really, really big.
You're going to have to invite me when it's time. I want to watch. I know what they are, but I want to watch.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. So we kind of have to figure out how we're going to obviously do them and how we're going to pull them off.
Timing.
But timing, right? Because we're in so much crazy, the travel.
Yeah. You got to figure out the timing. I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. But let me tell you, it's going to be, so everybody listening, I know that I always tease about tea. This is the biggest tea that we've ever done. And I don't think it can get any bigger than this.
And as exciting as both of them are, and I am excited for you, you know what that means for me?
What's that?
Less husband around. So it's like, and I joke with everybody, every event we go to, they're like, oh, I just don't know how you do it. I get emails and stuff from Edgar all night long. I'm like, because he works 24/7. So I don't know where you're going to find more time in the day to do these things, but I know you'll fit it in, but I will have less husband time, I'm sure.
But
that's why you've invited me to come on a couple of trips, right? Because you know I'm not going to see you. Is that your evil plan?
I'm just really excited that now I'm like, hey, let's go. And you're like, let's go.
Let's do it.
Where before it was like, oh, no, it's okay. You go do your thing. And, and so you get to kind of come with us and kind of spend some time. Plus, not only that, so many people already know who you are. So it's fun.
Yeah, they're great people. I love spending time with them. It was nice to go to the BioGuard event. Amazing people there. They treated us so well. It was a lot of fun. It was gorgeous. Going out to see in California and go out to Aquastar, great people again. So it's those last 2 trips I've been on have been really fun. Awesome people to interact with. So I love getting to know more and more.
Yeah, it's really, really, really exciting. So, excited to be able to have you go to those events with us. So we're kind of excited.
Well, now the kids are grown. I don't really have a lot of excuses.
Right. The kids are just, they're grown now. But
they do get jealous though.
Now they do.
Now they're adults. They're like, hey, I know there's no kids on that trip, but we're adults now. We should be there. So I thought that was a good response for one daughter when we sent them pictures of our trip in Mexico. She's like, oh, I'm so excited for you that you could finally have a trip alone with no kids, because anybody that knows Edgar knows he doesn't like to go anywhere without the kids. And the other daughter chimed in and said, what are you talking about? We're not kids. We're adults. We should be there. We should be at that resort. We should be having a good time with you. And I'm like, that's a good point. Well put.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how we can get them too.
Yeah.
It'll be just big, huge families.
I think with Bree at law school, that's going to be a tough one. But Sienna, we might be able to rope in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. So anyways, Leanne, I'm excited to have you on today. And, it's something that we've been hearing a lot about lately. And it just kind of reminds me, during COVID, it was the Great Resignation, and then had all these different terms that kind of all the businesses you hear from and stuff like that. And so one of the things that have been coming out lately is a lot of, when we talk about it, it's a lot of upskilling and reskilling. And you're starting to hear a lot about that everywhere. I don't know if it's because people are worried about AI and if they need to change what they've learned, or
that's some of it,
or all that, but it's kind of like the latest thing in the latest conversation. And so I want to talk about that because it really applies to any business, any industry out there. And really what I want to do is, before we jump in and start having this conversation, I want to break it down a little bit so that it's really easy to understand. And we really hear those words, upskilling and reskilling, a lot, but I don't think most people have a clear understanding of what they really mean, or when each one of those actually really matters. So let me ask you this, from your perspective, when you hear upskilling, what does that really look like in real life? And just not a definition, but what does it look like when somebody's actually doing it?
It could look like a lot of things, again, depending on the industry, because you're right. It's applicable to any industry and any person, honestly. But what that looks like is in your current role, no matter what it is. You might even have your role, for the most part, down pat, no problem. You've got it down. You could probably do it with your eyes closed. If that's the case and somebody says, we need to look at some upskilling in this area, that might not necessarily mean that you're not doing well in your current role. It just means there might be more that we need to be doing, or there might be another avenue that's new to this role or this industry, and we need to upskill. And upskill really is, how can we enhance the current skill set that you have now? Teach you some skills that are applicable to your new role. So you brought up AI. AI is a perfect example of upskilling, right? It doesn't matter what role you're in, there is some factor that AI could take a part in, where years ago, even as much as last year, it wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So let's just take any role and say, we want you to upskill in AI. How can you, that means really becoming skilled and proficient in AI, and how do you apply that to your current role? And we're doing it even right now in HR, right? So we use AI to do things like help us with recruiting, narrowing down better talent based on what we're looking for. AI can go in there and do it for us, and it saves us a ton of time. I've used AI to help with, as awful as it sounds, but helping to write better disciplinary action or performance improvement plans or development plans. We've done a lot with AI, and last year and 2 years ago, that wasn't even really much of a conversation. And that's because AI has changed so much, and now it's learning so fast that it really is applicable to almost anything. And that would be an example of anybody taking AI and upskilling in their current role, getting good at it, figuring out how to use it. And again, there's great books on it, but as long as you continue to be the leader in that, you don't rely on it, but that's part of learning the proper use of AI. That would be improving your skills. And, again, I'm in a supply chain area of business. There's a lot of ways to use AI in supply chain. So even my supply chain division is upskilling using AI, better reporting, better forecasting, those types of things.
And it's interesting because 2 years ago, the conversation was, oh, you can use AI, but you have to be really careful.
Yeah.
It's not that good. It's not that accurate. The conversation today is you're way behind if you're not using AI.
Again, regardless of the role, if there's something out there that you could upskill, you could add this skill to your list of skills, then if you don't do it, you do get left behind. And AI is a classic example of that. And it's just, back in the day, I have people on my team that worked for the company long before computers existed. So upskilling was learning computers because that was a new thing. Now it sounds funny that we had a time when there wasn't computers. I think our kids would be baffled by that, but there was a time when there wasn't computers, and they had to upskill in their current role to learn computers and apply those computers and its usage to their jobs. I've got somebody on my team that's been on my team for 43 years. And when there's a computer issue, she's the first one to find it because she was there when the darn thing was invented. And she's been along with every iteration since then. And that's also upskilling.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And for everybody out there, I think we should do a podcast just on that because it applies to everything, whether you're service, whether you're a pool tech, whether you're in retail, whether you're a builder. And it's not that it's really going to take your job. And for us, we joke around. It's like AI is not going to come out and, net and vacuum a pool and adjust chems and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that you could do as a business to use it to make your life a lot easier. I personally use it a lot. And people ask me all the time, why are you able to get so much stuff done by yourself? And that's because I use those tools and integrate them to make my life a lot easier.
You've been upskilling.
And I've been kind of upskilling in that area.
But that's a good example of, again, I think a podcast, it would take up the entire podcast if you talk about the ways that you can use AI in the pool industry, right? And to your point, that's the first thing people think about is it's going to take somebody's job away. What we have found, and most companies have found, most companies are doing so much more now with less people. And it's not because they want to, it's because the economy's tough or whatever's happened. So they have to really get strategic on how they use their people. And what we have found is using AI has allowed us to free up time, and we can be more strategic, and AI can do some of the other work for us, right? Whether it's writing something better or faster or forecasting or planning something, pop it in there. If you got the right prompts, it spits it out and it saves you a ton of time. When you have less people, that's really a lifesaver.
Yeah. And especially for businesses, you just hit on something which is really kind of talking about being strategic. And a lot of that is being able to have the time to sit down and put a plan together.
Yeah.
And I know we use the word strategic and it sounds really fancy. And all it is just putting a game plan together as to what you want to do and how you're going to execute it. And that's one of the things that AI has allowed me personally to do is to get a lot of the tasks that I needed to do out of the way to be able to spend a lot more time kind of strategizing. Okay, what are we going to work on? How are we going to do it? How are we going to get it accomplished? So we'll have to do a deep dive into that because that's just an entirely great conversation. But getting back to upskilling versus reskilling, why do you think this topic has become such a big part of conversations around work, leadership, and really around a lot of growth lately?
Again, depending on the industry, it could vary, but I think part of it has to do with we are doing so much more with less. Less people have to learn how to do more things because you don't have those layers in a lot of companies that you used to have to do a lot of the lifting in some of those areas. So I think general companies are doing a lot more with less people. And so absent those layers, they have to upskill. So it could be anything from learning how to do certain computer programs or learning how to apply some of the data to the work. You might have had an analyst at some point that used to do that or whatever. Even in the pool industry, just me not being in the pool industry, but living in a house that is the pool industry. I was just commenting, I'm like, there's a box of Aquastar stuff sitting right there. Like, why is that in this room? Just listening to stuff that goes on in the pool industry, how you guys have changed just in the time that you've started in the pool industry years ago, the chemicals and how you use them and how you test them and all these different things, how you relate to your customers has changed, how the way you offer different packages to the customer has changed. So you've had to take on more of a marketing mindset too, right? Which back when you started as a pool pro, marketing wasn't necessarily front of mind, but you've had to upskill in even just marketing as a pool pro. And so there's so many things that just in the pool industry alone, if you really break it down, when you start your first day of netting and jetting, you're really not thinking about all the other things. Now, if you step back now and look at the long list of things that even just you yourself have had to upskill in, it's amazing because you had to upskill in targeting your market too, right? Narrowing down your route. And why did you have to do that? And you had to learn profitability and the finances and all those things. And even you've had to figure out, because I remember us sitting there manually doing billing, which was a disaster. Again, I'm not in the pool industry, but somehow I've managed to get pulled into that enough. So what do? You go and build tools to help you do that. So you're not doing it manually. That's constant upskilling. And so now that you're thinking about breaking down the word itself, it's like I've watched you upskill all these years, because from the day you first started in the industry, even to now, where you're not doing pools, but you are educating the industry, you've been in a constant state of upskilling.
Yeah. And for pool pros specifically, so we talk about just pool pros, there's so many things that they do. And when we compare it to an HVAC tech, the HVAC tech is just they're working on the one unit, whether it's the Freon, whether it's the unit itself or the compressor. It's just that one unit, boom, you're done. For the pool pro, they have to learn not just one piece of equipment, but a whole bunch of different brands, and they all work differently. And it's a heater, and it's an automation, and it's a pump, and it's an ozone, and it's a UV, and it's like all these pieces of equipment. But then you have to learn electrical, because you have to be able to learn how to wire all those things. And then you have to learn plumbing. And at the beginning, the plumbing is just basic. You just plumb and go. But then you start to learn about hydraulics, and then that changes. And then you have to be a business owner, and you have to know the financials, and then you have to be able to deal with customers, and then the marketing.
Your employees.
I think a lot of people just go, oh, really just kind of pool guy. And we take a step back and we compare it to a lot of different industries. And it's like, man, pool business owners have to know so many different,
they really do.
And I don't think they get a lot of credit for that. It's very difficult because, like you said, you have to constantly be upskilling. It's not just about business. It's not just about leadership. It's about,
We'll layer in some time management in there, because if you look at the list of things they've got to do, I mean, they've got to manage that time, right? And it starts before the sun comes up. And their day doesn't end until the sun's down. And then even then, if they're doing billing or answering customer questions or whatever, it's like time management's in there. There's a lot of upskilling that has to happen. I think most pool pros start thinking that they're just going to be cleaning pools, not really realizing when they get in the business, man, there's a whole lot more to this than I imagined. So they're in a constant state of upskilling. Again, just like I've watched you do for years, that's what they're going through as well. And I think being able to put a name on it and recognize that that's what they're doing is probably pretty important too, because when they're doing it and they're doing it holistically and they don't really realize it. For example, when they're figuring out how this pump works with this piece of equipment versus that, because every backyard's going to have a different variation, right? Of what filter and what pump and whatever. So they're going to have different variations. So they've got to figure out how all those things work together. And I think having a name for what they're doing when they're upskilling, when they're learning new things, like how to manage their business profitability, how to manage employees, that type of stuff. If they understand that this is upskilling, they can compartmentalize it a little bit instead of feeling overwhelmed by all the stuff that they have to know and have to learn. They can title it as this is part of upskilling. I'm learning this so I can make this part of my business better. I'm learning that. And I think that helps with some of that overwhelm onslaught of information that they may feel like they're constantly flexed with, especially when they first get into business.
Yeah. It can be very stressful, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of it, because the other part of it is a lot of the labor has to get done no matter what.
Yep.
Every pool has to be clean. So if an employee calls in, right, that just throws a whole wrench into everything. And now you're having to go there. And the other part of the business is just going to have to suffer. Let me ask you, how would you personally explain the difference between upskilling and reskilling?
Okay, so reskilling is basically when you're going to switch, whether it's roles or industries altogether. So you have to reskill on everything. So let me give you an example. When you went from hotels to pools, you were in a complete reskilling mode. Now, some of your customer service skills transferred over to the pool industry, things like that you could bring from the hotel industry into the pool industry. Some of those are transferable, but you had to reskill totally. Like you weren't going in and doing anything hotel related for the most part. For a time I worked at Disney, and there were guys at Disney that would make a comment and they'd say, I've had 4 different careers at Disney. And I said, well, what does that mean? Well, I started in this part of the industry and then I completely switched over to that part of the industry. So every time they switched careers within the company, that's reskilling. It's not upskilling, it's just reskilling, because they're basically switching absolute jobs, absolute roles, even types of the industry, right? When you're switching out of one role or company into a completely other one, and those skills aren't necessarily all transferable, you're basically starting over. You're reskilling.
Yeah. So every pool pro out there, every builder, retailer that was doing something else and jumped into the industry at that stage, they had to reskill, and
yeah, but look at the pool guys, or let's say look at the builders, that some of them started doing pools. And then they thought, hey, this looks cool. Let me get into being a builder. That's reskilling because yes, some of their pool pro information and skills that they had are transferable. But for the most part, now they're gone from servicing pools to building them. That's a whole reskilling.
Yeah, it's a whole different animal.
Absolutely.
Altogether.
Yep.
So let me ask you, in your experience, when do people actually need to reskill and when do they just need to upskill what they're already doing?
I think look at the role. If you're staying in the role or the same industry, then it looks like you just need to upskill, right? And reskilling is when you switch roles or industries. So if you look at upskilling, a lot of times upskilling could hit you at a different time. So for example, some people say, gosh, I've been doing this job so long, I could do it with my eyes closed. That might be a good time to start upskilling and learning a different maybe arm or avenue of that role that can elevate that role a little bit or elevate you in that role, whether that looks like something like AI or if it looks like you can take that role to the next level. That would be an upskilling opportunity, especially if you're bored. The other thing could be if the company's growing and the company is moving so fast and you've been stagnant, that might be a good opportunity to look at, maybe it's time that I start upskilling myself so that I can keep pace with the growth of the company or the growth of this role or whatever. So sometimes you've either stalled out or the company has stalled out. It's a good time to upskill. Or if one's going faster than the other, it's a good time to upskill so that you're not left behind, because you want to stay relevant, I guess, in current day is probably the best thing. Reskilling will be completely role or career change is the best time to reskill.
Yeah. Why do you think so many people just jump in? They kind of think, well, I just need to do something instead of asking, do I just need new skills? Because I think we see that where people they kind of get to a certain point and then just go, I need something different.
Yeah. That's why I think having a label for it is helpful to people, right? And I've seen people where they felt like, oh gosh, it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to do something different. Oftentimes they can't really pick or identify why that is. But that is a good time to take a step back and say, maybe it's time to reskill or upskill, sorry, because they have gotten stagnant or they're bored or they don't really feel the contribution that they might be making, or they don't see the contribution. And it's an easy sort of downward spiral or trap to fall into. But if you have a label for it and you're aware, I'm getting bored, or I can do this with my eyes closed, that's your opportunity. And by the way, if no one's pressuring you, if in your performance review or anything, no one's pressuring you to do better, but you make the conscious decision to upskill yourself, bingo, that's even better, right? Because all of a sudden it hits the leaders out of nowhere and they're not aware and they're like, wow, whatever happened to this guy? Look how great they're doing. So it's a great opportunity to make that conscious decision yourself to upskill. And a lot of times that might be researching what else you can do with that role. Because again, if your leadership or your company's not telling you, hey, this is where we want this role to go, or this job that you're doing or whatever, but you come up with that idea, that just makes you even more valuable because you've thought of it ahead of time. And that's a great time to upskill. And there's so many resources out there on how you can elevate roles, what you can do with that role from a strategic perspective, how that role can better contribute to a company, whatever. Again, go back to AI, that'll help too. But there's a lot of that you could drive yourself. And then what happens is you find yourself in a learning opportunity. And for those people that have gone to the boot camps or they've gone to the women's summit or the classes that you guys are all teaching, everybody walks out of there with that learning opportunity and they're on fire, right? The energy after people have gone through a learning opportunity, and when they're in that session, that's upskilling, right? They're all in those classes and they're upskilling. When they come out of there and they've got that energy and they've got in their mind, oh my gosh, when I get back to work, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and here's how I'm going to apply that, and here's what I'm going to do with it. That energy and that just spark is just amazing, right? And so that's why everybody should constantly be looking at upskilling, because it's good for the soul. Lack of a better word, it's just good for the soul, right? If you sit there and let yourself get stagnant, you're going to feel stagnant. And that's when you feel like, oh, I need to go do something different. Not always necessary. You've got the ability to ignite within yourself and feed the soul with this upskilling or constant learning. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I think it's really important. And I think that's one of the parts why we love the education side so much. And we try to constantly put stuff out there. And that is that there's always learning opportunities. And it doesn't matter what you do, whether it's chemistry, whether it's business, whether it is there's always some higher level of learning, of whether it's taking classes or partnering up with a mentor or doing whatever it is. And just like you said, it feels good. Once you go through that and you level up and you learn something new, it just really makes you feel a lot more motivated, a lot more excited about what it is that you're doing. And I think to a lot of people, it takes away the I'm bored if they're kind of but again, at the end of the day, it requires for that person to make the effort to go to the education, to find a mentor, to do.
And then to put it in use.
To put it in use. Yeah. Because most people don't just wake up one day and just go, oh, I should probably upskill. It doesn't work like that.
In fact, it's funny because a lot of times coming, especially out of the women's summit, a lot of the women are like, man, I didn't even know I needed that. That was the best thing ever. I didn't even know I needed that. Right. Mm-hmm. So they didn't know, whatever the topic is. A lot of times they walk in, they're not even clear what that description of the topic is. And then they go through and they're like, that's the best thing ever. I didn't even know I needed that. And then my recommendation, especially when you're upskilling, and again, this goes to, and for most people that are familiar with Doreen King, and she does a lot of she's obviously Vice President of Learning and Development now here, and she does a phenomenal job. Doreen and I have worked together 20 years. I don't know how long it's been. It's been a long time. But one thing that she's always said that stuck with me in my HR role, I've made sure that I apply that constantly. But she says, I will not teach just so people could check a box. Like, yeah, went through that class, check, went through that class, check. She really wants to make a difference and make sure that that learning has made a difference with that person, whether it propels them to the next level or whatever that is. And so there's certain steps that I like to follow when I teach things to my teams or my leaders or whoever they are. There's steps that when you learn something, you should then test it, you should try it, and then you should share it. And most learning for the average adult learner comes at a greater length when they actually teach something. And that's the share it stage, right? So if you learn it, you test it, you try it, and you share it, those steps really help solidify that learning And then it becomes part of who they are and how they are, instead of just checking the box that I went through that class, I did that class. And again, a lot of people already have it in their minds in the class of how they're going to go apply it. But then they get back to work and life takes over and they're busy,
chaotic,
and they can't get to it, but they put it on this corner of their workstation and they're going to get to it later and life takes over, right? You have to really be intentional about, if I learn this, how can I learn it, test it, try it, share it? And that, again, helps that learning just really sink in and stick and make it really part of how they do things going forward. So that's just one of my recommendations for upskilling, is make sure that you're not just checking a box, that you're really applying it. And if you can share it, that could be as much as telling another pool pro what you just learned and walking them through it. Or it could be talking about it in a meeting at work, or it could be demonstrating it for other people. Hey, we learned how to do this or whatever. Let me show you. And that just, again, helps that learning stick a little bit better.
Yeah. Let me ask you, for people, is feeling overwhelmed or stuck often a signal that someone's skills haven't caught up to their responsibilities yet?
Well, it depends. If the overwhelming feeling is coming from there's so much work, they can't seem to get a handle on it, that kind of stuff, that may be a call for help, for there's a need for some upskilling for sure. If they're bored and they're really getting through the day and 5 o'clock comes around, they don't even remember half of what happened in the day because they just went through the motions, might be another good opportunity for upskilling. You have to really be aware of some of those behaviors that you're seeing, whether it's, I'm overwhelmed and maybe the company's expecting more and I haven't caught up to those expectations, or I'm not even clear on what those expectations are. That's a possibility as well. So you have to really take a step back. And again, that's why I think having a label for it, the upskilling, is important, so people can actually say, this might be an opportunity that I should upskill. Or if I switch industries, this is an opportunity that I need to reskill. So I think having a label for it helps, because then if you see the symptoms, you can identify those and know what you need to do next. So yeah, I think especially big companies, keeping up with the expectations, understanding what those are and being able to fulfill those. And when you can't, it's time to upskill.
No. Why do you think people wait till they're frustrated or burnt out before they really address those skill gaps?
I think a lot of times it creeps up on you slowly, right? It's not something that happens from Monday to Tuesday, all of a sudden it blew up. I think it creeps up on you slowly until it does get to that point, and then you are overwhelmed or frustrated. So I think just, again, being aware of some of those behaviors early and being able to address them earlier. Because if you have to upskill in 1 or 2 areas, it's a whole lot easier than if all of a sudden you figure out you're behind in 10. So I think identifying how you feel at work, and is it fulfilling? Are you enjoying it? Do you feel successful at what you're doing? Are you getting the recognition and gratitude that you need? And if you're not, maybe it's because you need to be doing more. Who knows, right? So I think understanding and really being aware of how you're feeling and how it's going along the way helps. Upskilling in one area is fairly easy, but if you find yourself behind in 10, it's going to be a bigger uphill battle.
Let's talk a little bit about leadership growth and accountability. And what are some of the most common leadership skills people underestimate that maybe they need to upskill?
Ooh, leading of other people.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, first of all, people underestimate how difficult it is to manage others, right? So if you grew up in a job where you were, working alongside your friends and blah, 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 and you did well, and then all of a sudden they promote you and now you're the leader of the friends, that's a tough one. And, you and I saw that a lot in hotels, right? It becomes very difficult to go from being that frontline employee to being now the supervisor or the leader. And managing other people and all those personalities and all the things that they have going on in their life and all these outside things is very difficult. So sometimes I find people, new leaders especially, new supervisors, they'll do it one of 2 ways. They'll either go soft and still try to be everybody's friend and not have difficult conversations, or they'll come in hot and hit hard from the very beginning and not really know how to coach and develop and have those difficult conversations. So they either come in real soft and gentle and too soft and gentle, or they come in hot. So it's really leading of people and being able to coach and guide and have conversations and have difficult conversations. I think that's one of the first struggles that people have when they get into that leadership role. They underestimate the difficulty of leading others.
And I think a lot of people too, maybe by nature, they're not confident having those difficult conversations.
No, yeah.
And so then they just kind of avoid them, or they don't have them, right? And then that just
Yeah.
kind of becomes a lot more difficult then to even manage the people, because then everything just starts to snowball.
Yeah, and it does. And so let's say you're a pool pro and you've grown your business and you've now added, let's say 3 employees, right? And one of them's not doing well, not pulling their weight, showing up late, truck's a mess, whatever. And if you avoid having those conversations with that person, first of all, it's affecting your credibility as the owner or the leader, because the other 2 employees see it's happening too. It's not just you that knows what the expectation is, right? It's not just you that knows they should have a clean uniform and the truck should be orderly and they should show up on time and they should finish their pools on time and good customer service, whatever. So when you don't address those issues with that employee, your other employees see it, and then it affects your credibility. And then it gives them a little bit cause for concern, because they're like, look, I'm showing up every day on time. I'm putting in the effort to make my truck clean, and I'm getting treated the same. I'm getting paid the same. I'm doing the same work as this other guy, but better. It's not fair. So then they move on from you. They go work somewhere else. They're going to work for somebody that can manage their business, that can manage their employees. So there's a lot of downward spiral that can happen in those situations if you are a leader and avoid those conversations. But there's a skill that comes with that. Like, you really have to understand the craft. It's a craft of having difficult conversations, and having those conversations and letting somebody walk away with their integrity intact. It's not to beat them down or anything like that. So there's a skill that comes with that. Again, you don't want to come in hot. So I've had situations where I've had to terminate people, and they'll hug me and thank me on the way out. And somebody that's there as an observer, like, what the heck just happened? You just terminated them and they're hugging you and thanking you. And it's like, well, we've had conversations along this journey. This isn't the first conversation we've had, obviously,
surprised.
right?
Yeah.
And so they're not surprised. And I think they appreciate the opportunity that they've been given to improve, and they know that they didn't. And this is where we're at. But I treated them with dignity along the way. Again, there's a craft that comes with that.
Yeah. So do you think a lot of leadership problems are actually skill problems and not personality problems?
Yeah, they really are. It's normally not a personality issue. It's usually a lack of skill.
Obviously, we live in a day and age where, man, I think we have access to more information that we've ever had in our lifetime, right?
Yeah.
We're not just talking about Google anymore, right? That it was Google it, but you get these limited answers and really don't get the full picture. Now you have AI that really can, give you an in-depth and answer that. So why hasn't that automatically created better leaders and better businesses? Because with all the information's there.
What most people don't have is time. So people are so busy. And you know this from just when you're booking your educational opportunities, you have to think about, when is the busy time for the pool pros? When can they take advantage of this? Because you know how busy they are. So you have to be strategic in when you plan your things so that they can take advantage of it, because people just don't have extra time laying around. So part of it is time. Now, you will find people that will make the time to learn, right? And I'll give you an example. I was going to teach my team some things in AI. I did an offsite for my team and put them through some AI training and how they can utilize it to save themselves some time and effort and things like that. And just as a sample, I tossed in there, because we've got some facilities in California, and labor and employment laws are so much fun in California. Hopefully you sense the sarcasm there, but and so I just stuck it in AI, and I said, hey, AI, I'm getting ready to conduct a class with leaders in California. I'm in the supply chain industry, blah, blah, blah. I said, I really want to give them the basic principles of labor and employment, wage and hour laws in California. I need you to design a training for me. And man, AI in minutes popped out a training. And it asked me a couple of questions, like, who's the audience and how long do you want the training to be? And I said, it's going to be exempt leaders, make it about 2.5 hours. So AI popped out a training. First of all, it laid out so well the wage and hour laws in California. And it even asked me, would you like me to create a quiz? Would you like me to do this? Would you like me to do that? And that literally took me a few minutes. So if I was somebody that was new in HR in California, and I asked AI to train me on wage and hour laws in California, that's one way that you can get a training really quickly, right? AI just popped it out like that in a few minutes. But it takes time to somebody stop and think, what do I need? Where can I get it? And then I got to learn it. And then I have to apply it. And those things take time. So I think back to your question, one of the biggest gaps of why people don't use all of this vast information that's at their fingertips is time. And then some people aren't really as aware as, what's out there. So again, to your point earlier, it's not just Google, and that's what people think. I need to find out the side effects of this medicine. I might Google it, but now you've got other resources. And because AI is all over the darn place, it can pull information from everywhere. Now you have to read it. You have to validate it. You have to make sure it didn't go nuts on you, because it'll go crazy on you a couple of times, right? Like I had it create scenarios. I'm like, where'd you get these scenarios? And it actually told me, I just made them up. But I'm like, don't make stuff up, right? So you have to be aware of it. But there's so much stuff out there. And I think people, A, don't know what's out there and how to access it. And B, they don't have the time to stop and slow down and actually do it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great point. Hey, let's do this. Let's take a quick word from our sponsors. When we come back, what I want to do, Leanne, is I want to talk about upscaling in the pool industry, but maybe we could talk about business owners, pool techs, retail builders, just give them a couple ideas. So, hey, everybody, we'll be right back.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. U.S. Motors Neptune Variable Speed Motor provides a versatile replacement solution for all your pool pump motor needs. This motor can communicate with pool control systems, provide low voltage options to work with time clocks, and can be installed as a standalone pump motor. The Neptune motor can be easily installed on existing pumps, upgrading them to a variable speed pump without the need for replumbing. Enjoy energy savings and quiet operation by installing a Neptune Variable Speed Motor today. For more information and to find your local distributor, visit usmotors.com/pool. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Meet the pipeline pump from Aquastar Pool Products, the next generation of variable speed pumps designed for serious efficiency. At its core is a high-performance permanent magnet motor that's totally enclosed and fan-cooled, delivering consistent energy-saving operation. Paired with Aquastar's patented high-efficiency volute design, the pipeline pump maintains optimal flow while cutting down on energy use. And it's not just efficient, it's incredibly quiet. Thanks to a high-tech rubber motor mount that absorbs vibrations and dampens sound, the pipeline runs smooth and quiet by limiting turbulence. Its 2.5-inch internal frame ensures unrestricted water flow, and it's available in both 1.5 HP and 3.0 HP models, each with 2-inch and 2.5-inch union fittings for flexible and efficient installation. Experience the pipeline difference, incredibly quiet operation, peak efficiency, and proven performance. Ask your supplier for the pipeline pump from Aquastar, available now. Care Solutions, for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I am talking to Leanne De Jesús. We are out in Texas, and it's not Snowmageddon because Snowmageddon was the last time. This is probably Ice-mageddon. We do have some snow out there, but the roads are pretty bad out there. I was watching some videos. I don't know if you have, but
yeah,
a couple accidents and black ice everywhere. There was a reporter showing the I-35, not one car whatsoever. And she was like, I've been here for 8 years. I've never seen
that.
This.
Means people are smart and
yeah.
It's not worth. Luckily, it's Saturday too, so not a lot of people are trying to get out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But what's crazy is how many places are still open today.
Yeah. I talked to our oldest son earlier, and they had him go into work.
He went to work today?
He went to work today. And I won't say what company, but they have a policy that they don't call off for weather unless the closest Starbucks to them closes. If the closest Starbucks to that business closes, then they think it's bad enough they should close. So eventually that Starbucks closed at 2:00. So they were able to shut down.
I just want people to understand how other businesses affect other businesses. It's like you go to like Florida and really people don't start to leave until the Waffle House closes down.
Right.
And then that's an indication, right? So that's pretty crazy. So, Leanne, we talked about upskilling. We talked about reskilling. A lot of great information. As a matter of fact, I was sitting here, and as you're talking through, I'm like, okay, we need to do a training on this because it's just such a great topic. And then I'm thinking to myself, I need to integrate this into the training that I'm going to be doing at the Western and at the Southwest show.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Because I think this is something that kind of needs to be talked about. So I got to figure out how to fit it into maybe one of the longer classes so that we can kind of talk about it. So what I'd like to do now is, because we talk about upskilling and stuff like that, but I want pool pros and builders and retailers to see how it directly would be into their verticals. So I want to talk about it by role. So let's talk a little bit about business owners. And we'll start with the business owners. But what are some of the most important areas you see business owners need to upskill into their scaling as they're growing?
I think understanding what the objective is first. So let's say they're scaling or they're growing. They need to know to what level they want to get to. And then they have to look at to get to this point. And maybe it's a 3-phase approach, right? Because maybe we need to get to this point A before we get to point B, before we get to point C. So I think knowing what the overall objective is, then you have to understand, I think upskilling comes into play to understand what kind of labor do we need? How much labor do we need to do that? And what are the skills of the labor that we need to do? And I've often cautioned people, you might interview, I think I had this conversation with Zach actually, and if he listens, he'll probably laugh and go, yep, that was me. Zach would do an interview, or a lot of people fall into this trap of doing interviews, and you meet somebody in this interview and they're awesome, right? You love them. They're like, oh my God, this is the greatest person. We could be best friends. I love them that much. But they might have the skills that you're looking for or that you need for the role that you're hiring. So I caution everybody, don't hire people because you find them awesome. You have to hire them because they have the skill set that you need for that role. So if you're going to grow your business, you need to know what your objective is. And then you need to know how much your labor is, how much you need for that. And then you need to know what skills you need. Do you need a bookkeeper? Do you need more pool pros? What do you need? So I think really understanding what you need is going to be half the battle. And then you have to understand if there's some level that you're taking your business and you don't have those skills in your business, then you have to figure out how to hire for that skill or upskill your current people for it, right? So as you're growing your business, do I need more people or do I need my people to have more skill? So you have to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish. And a lot of that, and I hear you talk about it too, but how much revenue does the business need to generate for us to be able to grow it to the level that we're growing it? So you need to understand what your financials are, where they are now and where you want them to be, and what do you need to accomplish to get them there without going into a hole. So really understanding all of the variables that you're trying to accomplish and what it takes to do that, I think is half the battle.
Yeah. And for everybody listening out there, and just if you're going to be a one pooler, It's okay. And there's a lot of amazing one-pollers that I know that are very successful, that they just want to do that. They don't want to have employees. They don't want to do any of that. But then there's a lot of us that want to scale and want to grow our businesses and want to do that. And one of the things that we do as business owners is we try to do everything. We try to go, I don't need somebody to do that, or I could do that. And you're working 7 days a week, you're working 10 hours a day, you're just starting to hit that burnout point. And there's two things that Leanne just talked about, which I think are very important. And that is, you might have the skill set to be able to do something, but you have to figure out whether it's worth your time to do that. And
Absolutely.
So the first one I'm going to talk about, and I talk about it all the time, is a bookkeeper, right? Hiring a bookkeeper, $200, $300, $400, right? To me, when I was running my business, it wasn't worth my time to sit there and have to track expenses and create a profit and loss statement or any of that. And that's kind of why I hired somebody. And then double fold, right? You have eyes on the financials. At the end of the year, your taxes are done, right? And it's so much easier versus us going, no, I'll do it. And then at the end of the year, it's taking you 3 weeks to get it all done, and it's stressful. And then that way we keep putting it off. So if you're going to scale, you have to bring a team. If you're going to scale, there's only so much work you personally can do, and you can't scale anymore. So you need to get used to the fact that you're going to need to bring other people to your team, period, end of story. If you want to scale, you need other people to be able to do the work with you. And so if that's a bookkeeper, and yes, I recommend most people, first thing that you should do is get enough revenue to be able to bring a bookkeeper. That's going to take a lot off your shoulders, and it's going to give you the financial side. That's going to give you so much views to that. Two is you have to know when you have to hire somebody that has a bigger skill set than you. And I'll give a perfect example to everybody here on the podcast, specifically with Pool Nation, right? You know, Zach, John, and I do a lot of training, and we had you do a lot of training. And we looked at a lot of the education, and you talked about it a little bit. And that was that Doreen doesn't like to do education to just check a box. And we're like that too. And by the way, if you go back and look at all the education that we started at with, go check out how much of it we just threw in the trash, because it was stuff that people would take the class and would just check a box, right? And to us, it's like, look, if it doesn't move the needle, if you can't put it into play tomorrow into your business, then it's not worth doing, and we're not going to do it. But anyways, you get to a point where you need somebody that has a higher skill set in order to be able to do that. And so for us, Doreen was a perfect example. We knew that we needed somebody that we needed to be able to skill up, but we knew two things. One, can I do it? Yes, it's probably going to take me years to get even as close to her as possible. That's number one, right? Number two is just don't have the time, because that requires somebody to be niche expert in that situation. So for your business, it's the same thing. You have to look at it and go, what areas do I need to bring somebody? And then what you should really do is you should bring somebody that has a better skill than you into that position, because it's just going to make you better. But as business owners, we think, no, we have to know it all. And it's like, no, you don't. What you need to do is have people that are better than you so that you can work on the strategy and let them go out and do what it is that you need to do. For all of you guys, business owners out there, that's something that you should really focus on, right? Is A, when do you need to skill up? And then two, when do you need to bring somebody that has that higher skill?
That was the exact example I was going to throw back at you. I was going to say, look at what you guys started with pool education, which is great because you all have been pool pros. You all know the water chemistry, you know, all that stuff. But when you get into some of the higher level leadership, bringing somebody in that's their expertise was brilliant, because they elevate now that development opportunity. So that's a great example.
And she's even come to us, and even with the stuff that we teach, it's right. Like, no, you should change your style here. You should change this there. And it's like,
she's making you better.
And it's like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
I could sit out there and teach a class, and I talk about, I was in Las Vegas and I started repeating some words, right? And I didn't catch it on. And you kind of call me over to the side and say, hey, just to give you a heads up, you were repeating, I don't know, whatever words was.
A filler word.
And I'm like, boom, got it. We always need those people in our corner that are going to have that skill to be able to coach you along the way. So where do you think owners usually resist upskilling the most, and maybe why?
Looking at pool industry from an upskilling standpoint, I think it could be different for anybody in any industry, honestly. But some of it is, I think, getting staying relevant. You and I have talked about this a lot. There are some people in the pool industry that want to do it the same way it's been done 20 years, right? And so sometimes if someone's been in a business for a while, and I see it a lot in my company and in my industry where people are like, that's why we've always done it. And I said, God, if I hear those words one more time, I swear I'm going to choke somebody out. But people get so comfortable in having something done the same way that they really avoid that upskilling, maybe not even recognize that it's necessary. So I think staying relevant in the industry, whatever your industry, but especially as you see the pool industry changing, I think business owners have a hard time staying relevant because they have a formula that's worked for them up to that point and don't realize that it's time to change the formula. Then they get passed up. Then they start getting stagnant and their business starts to slow down, or other businesses around them take off and they're wondering, why are they taking off? What are they doing differently? If you really pull back the covers, you'd see that they're staying relevant with the times, whether it's engaging their workforce. Listen, everybody jokes around about the millennials. That was a real thing. When you didn't change your business to meet the mindset of some of these millennials, you didn't have a workforce because they all ditched you and went somewhere else. And you had to change how you managed as a leader or how you ran your business when you were hiring millennials, because what they wanted was different than the guy that would retire with a company after 40 years, right? So they're two totally different mindsets of the workforce. So part of staying relevant as a business owner is knowing what your workforce is, what do they want, what's important to them, and adjusting. But if you say, nope, this is my benefit package, this is my wage package, this is the hours that you work, this is how this goes, and you don't know to adjust that because that doesn't work for that workforce anymore, then you become irrelevant. So I think a lot of the upskilling for business owners, they really have to stay relevant. And that could be a lot of different things. Again, whether it's changing with your workforce or changing your benefits. My company just switched their time off benefits because they had to stay relevant. Instead of having a certain number every week, so you have what they call flex benefits. You don't have a limit to the number of vacation days you can take, because that's staying relevant. People don't want to say, I only get 2 weeks every year. You can take whatever time off you need. As long as you're getting the job done, nobody cares. That's a different way of thinking. So you have to stay relevant.
And you have to also offer the opportunity for these employees to be able to continuously upskill to keep them motivated.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's part of that engagement. And again, we saw that a lot with millennials. What millennials wanted to do is they wanted to know that, gosh, if I'm going to leave my house and I'm going to come to work, that needs to matter. My work needs to matter. It needs to contribute to the success of the company. And if you're just letting them work and you're not telling them how that work impacts the business or how it has thrust you forward or how it's grown the business, then you lose them. They just want to know what they do mattered. And so a lot of that is sharing business results or keeping them informed, keeping them engaged, definitely educating them, definitely growing and developing them. They have to know that they're getting something out of this job other than just a paycheck. There's other things that are more important to them. Relationships are important to them, right? They want to have relationships with their coworkers and with their leaders and with the business owner. They can't just be another number. So a lot of that comes into play. That wasn't the case 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's changed,
Yeah.
and you have to change with it.
And business owners need to understand, because I hear this a lot where people just don't want to work or people just don't stay and people go. I think there's two different things, right? We talk about the millennials, and it's very difficult now to get 30 or 40 years out of a person that just doesn't exist anymore. So I think for the business owners, they really need to learn for each position, what is the life cycle of that employee? And every employee has a life cycle. And hey, if your business life cycle is 6 months, you've got a problem. It's not the employees. It's not, it's you. Trust me, it is you. And so your job is to figure out for each one of those positions, what is the life cycle of that position? And then go attack them individually and be able to do it. And I talk to a lot of pool pros all the time where they give trucks to their employees and they don't meet. And these people are working every day on their own. It's this younger generation that doesn't like that. So it's like, no, make them, whether to your house or whether they're going to meet you every day at a certain spot to touch base with everybody, to make them feel like they're part of it, engage them. You got to connect. And that's just this younger generation workforce. And so businesses just need to kind of understand that, because on one side, we hear the people going, my employees never want to work. And then you hear other companies and they're like, my employees don't want to leave. Like you have, and I know of companies that their employees just love working for them. And it's that culture and fulfilling those needs. Let's talk a little bit about pool techs, maybe the ones that are more specifically out in the field. What does upskilling look like for someone who wants to be great in the field and not just busy?
Well, it could be a lot of different things. I know there's some that just service the pool and then eventually they start getting into repairs. That's upskilling. I think even some of that upskilling, they might know how to do repairs, but are they doing them as efficiently or as fast? And are they up on the latest technology and things like that? So it could be anything along those lines of staying up on the latest, equipment that's out there, whether it's efficiencies that might speak to the customer. They might be able to say, hey, I just want to let you know there's new equipment out and this is what it can do for, your water efficiency or electricity or whatever. A lot of that just is really knowing their product and really upskilling on the products themselves so that they could do a better job of selling the products. Even sales tactics are a good upskilling for a tech in the field, because if a tech in the field thinks my job is just to go clean and repair, they don't really understand, man, as the business owner, those techs see those customers all the time. That's going to be my best salesperson because that's who the customer's going to trust. That's who they see. So I need to give that pool pro some skills on how to sell, like this pump versus that pump, or this because of that. And here's what it would better serve the customer and why. But knowing how to sell that, not sound like they don't know the product, or not to sound like they're trying to give them something, that's expensive for no reason. What does the customer get out of it? Because your pool pros are probably going to be your best salesperson to the customer because that's who they know. So just sales tactics would be an upskilling that you could give pool tech. Even teaching them how to have conversations with the customer about pool safety. A lot of pool pros, when they first get in the business, don't understand the importance of pool safety. And I remember I had a pool guy before you got in the pool industry. We had a swimming pool in California, and we had a pool guy that came over and he said, hey, I just want to let you know these little grates, if they start to crack, they could really hurt your dog's paws if he walks on it and it cracks. I was like, okay, wow, I never even thought about that, but thanks for the pool guy because I wouldn't have thought of that. So I think even just knowing the pool safety is good, because a lot of them get into cleaning pools and don't understand it, and making sure here's what's important, why you don't want pool toys in there, because it might entice a kid to get out to the pool. But if you don't teach them that, give them that upskilling of pool safety, then they can't do that, help the customer. And I think as a customer, having your pool guy tell you safety tricks, whether it's because of your pets or your kids, that's huge. And that makes me trust my pool guy and want to keep my pool company. So those skills are really important. And the list could be so long on how you can upskill a pool tech.
Yeah, those are all great points. Especially for them, it's really learning also to really be able to talk to the lifestyle, right? So, if a customer is, and I always share this example, I helped somebody out here in Dallas put in a UV system, and they already had ozone. And the pool guy's like, I don't know why he wants this. He already has a salt system. He's got this, he's got that. And it's like, look,
who cares?
You need to understand the lifestyle of that person and why it's important to them. I went down to help him and started talking to the guy. The guy was a surgeon, right? So it's like, so to him, obviously all of that is very important. And it's being able to not just sell, forget about selling, being able to give them, this is important to you. Yeah. Let me be able to share with you what's out there, what's available. And, you let them choose. And that's another area right here for the pool techs, for business owners, is that you constantly have to be looking for areas to be able to upskill pool pros to motivate them to stay, right? If they're learning different things and they want to learn, they're going to be able to learn. I'm going to go back to the same thing. You need to understand that every employee has a life cycle. And it might be that once that pool tech gets as much experience that he thinks that he needs, he might want to be able to go be the butterfly and have their own business. You need to understand that. You need to know that's going to be the case, so that when you start looking at it, and I'm making up numbers, let's say that on average, a pool tech will stay for 3 years, and you have somebody that's getting to that 3 years, you have to have a plan, because on average, that's what, and you might have one that stays and one that leaves a little bit.
Succession planning is good too.
But you got to have that succession planning.
Yep.
But I think if you put them in a situation where they're constantly upskilling, it motivates them to
They
stay.
feel valued too. You're investing the time and energy and money to make them better. And they feel valued, and they know that most people know that's not easy to get everywhere, because by then they've experienced other employers. So that gives you that upper hand as the business owner, and you may tend to have them stay longer if they do feel valued, and they do feel that they've been invested in, and they can then apply what they've learned and see the satisfaction with a customer or see the satisfaction with growing the business. You have to share that with them, but it all comes full circle.
Now, let me ask you about retailers. And so you went with me to the BioGuard conference,
Yeah.
which was all retailers. And I talk about
Great
this all the
people,
time.
yeah.
I always
They
come
were
back
so fun.
so fired up because I call them our brothers and sisters that are just kind of forgotten over here
Yeah.
because their stories are so amazing. So they all have retail stores. Most of them either service or repairs or they do any of that. So it's not just retail. And they go through a lot of the struggles that just regular pool service companies go through. They just happen to have a retail store. Going to the conference, being able to meet some of those people. Do you have any idea for them where some of the biggest upskill opportunities are for maybe their retail team or them as a retailer?
I think similar to just pool service owners, same thing, managing employees was a big one, right? Being able to teach them, engage them, grow them. I think that's always, like we said earlier, managing employees is probably one of the toughest things that leaders do, even as retailers or whatever. And then I think there was a lot of conversation we heard about customers and how, this customer this or that customer that kind of thing. And it was interesting because it's very similar to the Pool Pro and the interactions they have with their customers. So I think upskilling on managing others, having those difficult conversations, but then also how to engage those customers, win the customers, the loyalty of the customers. And there was a couple people that we talked to that had bought into a business and they had customers that had been loyal to them forever, right? Or to the business prior, even forever. And they were keeping that loyalty, just whatever that customer needed. So I think understanding what's important to the customer. And again, it goes back to staying relevant. So a lot of your upskilling, what's going to keep you relevant? Are you selling the right products? Does your store look inviting for people to come in and buy from you? Is your customer service skills behind the counter, whether it's you or somebody else, are they what somebody looks for? Because again, relationships are key in most businesses. Whether you think that this is a transactional interaction because somebody's coming into a store to buy something, don't kid yourself. It's relationship. And it's funny because we had dinner with John and Janie the other day because they were in town. And John whipped out cash to pay the check. And I said, what are you doing carrying cash? It looks like you're going to get jumped in the parking lot, And he's frustrated because everything is this tip transactional kind of culture has really irritated him. And I was thinking about that afterwards because he's like, oh my God, it doesn't matter where you go. They hand you this iPad and tell you tip, and it's like you went and grabbed me a cookie and you want to tip for it. Like they're not serving you. They're not cleaning up. They're not engaging you. They're not interacting with you. They're not doing all these things. And that's when I realized I'm like, yeah, that whole tip culture has shifted away from the relationships that you have with the person behind the counter or the server that's taking care of you or whatever. That tip culture has damaged that relationship thing, right? So I found that in a lot of these conversations with the retailers, it's a lot of the relationships and they have to stay relevant and upskill and make sure that they're meeting the needs of the customer and that the person behind the counter is and so on and so forth. Because again, going back to whether it's pool industry or any other industry relationships, people really, I think, underestimate the importance of that.
Yeah. And for us, we talk about it all the time. This is a relationship driven business.
100%.
There's nothing. I get so frustrated. Like you talk to so many people and CEOs will come in new into the industry and they're like, what advice do you have? And I'm like, this is a relationship driven business. And they just don't understand
Their eyes glass over.
Yeah.
What do you mean in a relationship? This is about money.
This is all about money. If you want to
Yeah.
make money, it's about building relationships. It's about getting out there and building your community.
Absolutely.
And for retailers, I think it's a little bit of the same, right? So they have the people that tend to the homeowners, and that's a little bit of a different relationship than even their pool techs that are servicing the customers, where the customer just wants them to take care of everything. So for the retailers, I think it's interesting because even the upskilling can't be the same.
No, they've got some balancing they've got to do there. Yeah.
You can't teach a counter person that teaches water of a homeowner that wants to do it themselves to a pool tech that's servicing full service, a customer. So I think it gets a little bit interesting for them. There's a huge knowledge of different products. Now you start talking about all the SKUs that they have and all the different products that they have on the shelves and all that kind of stuff. And that becomes a whole different animal.
Yeah. And some of that upskilling is really being proficient in the products that you sell, right? You can sell products much easier and faster if you know everything that you need to know about that product. because then the customer, whoever that might be, has the confidence that you just know what you're talking about, right? And they can purchase that. But if you don't know, and we've done that before, we've gone into a store and we're like, what about this? And somebody gives us like this half-baked, vague answer. And we're like, so they clearly don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And then we don't end up buying that
Yeah.
because somebody can't tell us what we need to know. So I see you whip out your phone and then you start researching it and doing. But if the knowledge of the product for the retailer is there, that's an upskill. Make their counter person know as much as they can about the products. Also important.
Yeah. So I'm going to cross here and ask you, because I know that a lot of people are going to go, this is really important when it comes to upskilling and keeping the people motivated. But this also ties into a lot of training, because if these business owners are going to themselves upskill their employees, now there's a new equation in, right? Now I have to be a trainer. Now I have to do that. If they're going to use the thought process of, okay, I have to upskill my employees, that means I have to train. What is going to make that training effective and instead of exhausting, so that the employees don't see the upskilling as this exhausting thing?
And this is a whole nother class too, by the way, but having an effective teaching style, or a facilitator, if you will, is really important. So you went through the 3-day train the trainer class years ago, back when we were really young and didn't have kids.
It wasn't years ago, baby. It was decades ago.
Just trying to be gentle. But I said it was before we had kids. And like it was exhausting, but you learned so many things on how to keep people engaged in the learning and make sure that they're learning it, and make sure that you understand what level you should be teaching at, right? Like polling the room first, who's ever done this or who's familiar with that, so that you're keeping the teaching at the level of the participant. That's part of it. So if you're a business owner and you have knowledge of a product or a task or skill, whatever, and you can teach it to your people and you can teach it in a way that's interesting and it's fun and the learning lands, then by all means do it. If you don't have that, it would be like you and John or Zach trying to teach some of the classes that Doreen does, right? You know how to facilitate, but you don't know the content of the material. You don't really know a lot about that material. And so if you're trying to teach something that you don't know, you're going to lose your audience, and they're going to, first of all, you also mess with your own credibility. You can't do that, right? So being able to facilitate something and keep people engaged and let them have fun and let them see the value of that class, that's half the battle. So if you don't have the ability to do it yourself, you need to get somebody to do it for you. Otherwise, you're wasting time and money, right? Your resources are just going out the window for no reason. I was at an offsite with my company. Gosh, I think that was only last week or the week before. And I brought somebody in to teach a class that I was capable of teaching myself, but I brought somebody else in to do it because I wanted to be a participant with the leadership team that I support instead of being seen as their facilitator. And that was important because I think the team themselves got way more out of it learning from somebody else than me, because I'm the one that supports them all the time. And I needed them to hear, it was great information. It was great content. I needed them to hear it from somebody else. They were far more engaged. They took it with a different grain of salt than if they got it from me. So while I was perfectly capable, and I've taught that class, there's 2 classes, I've taught them before, would have been great. But it's like, I knew what I needed them to get out of it. And that's why I brought in somebody else. So really understanding as a business owner, is this something that I'm really skilled at and I can teach them and they're going to walk away with the right learning? Or, which will happen, yes, you can. Or is this something that I need to bring somebody else in or find another outside source to do it? Then do that too, but know what the objective is. And are you really the right one to do it?
Yeah. And that train the trainer, it's expensive to do because you can only do like 6 people at a time.
6 people, and it takes 3 days of your life.
3 days of your life.
3 best well-spent days ever.
So if I sit back and I look at any of the training that I've ever done in my career, that's been the one. That was a life-changing moment.
Yep, me too.
Not just from training somebody, from presentation, from being able to keep people engaged, from being able to recognize the different people and how they pay attention and the things that they do.
Or don't
do, right?
How to re-engage them instead of just ignore them.
Yeah. How confident I was after that, just getting in front of a group, right? I think at the beginning it was still a little nerve-wracking, but going in to do a presentation or a talk, I'm like, I have this foundation. Here's the 3 things that I need to do. And so I'm going to do those things in order to be able to do those.
Got to have a plan.
And let me tell everybody that's listening, it's the best. It made me get out of my comfort zone to the extreme. And that's been the one training that has gotten me completely out of my comfort zone. But you grow when you're out of that comfort zone and you push yourself. But it's helped me in so many other things. And I use it in everything, whether it's a speech at the Pool Nation Awards, or it's a training that we do, or a lot of times a podcast, and engaging our people that we're interviewing and trying to do all those things that are engaging. So absolutely amazing. I think that's something that we should offer. The challenge is it's not cheap, right? Because it's 3 days.
Yeah. It's a big lift. It's a big lift. And, I've been in HR 30 plus years. And if you think about all the training that I have either attended or conducted, that is still by far the best one. And even when Doreen was going to do it this past week, I'm like, I'm crashing it. I'm going. I just want to sit as a fly on the wall. It's that much fun.
Yeah.
But what's really rewarding is you watch people's ability to change and to facilitate. It grows increasingly from day 1 into day 2, and then from day 2 to day 3. And they're amazed at their own growth, thinking that there's no way they could do what they just learned to do. And it's amazing. It's by far, and again, I think the first time I took that class was probably, I think Dylan was like a year old. It was a long time ago. He's now 29 years old. So it's been a long time, but I've taught it hundreds of times because it's just that great. And it's still my favorite class to teach. Absolutely. Because you see the learning happen day after day. Yeah. And it's just amazing to watch the growth.
Yeah. Day 1 to day 3, by the time that you leave,
insane difference. Yeah. Insane.
And because you have to do all the work there.
Yep.
That's not one of those trainings that you come and you take, and then you have to go take it and implement it yourself. And that was it. It's like you come to that training.
It changes your behavior.
It's 3 days of training. You're doing training. You're having to go back to your hotel. You're having to do homework. You're having to prepare. And it's day after day. But that's what you need. By day 3, it's such a life-changing. And so
what's neat about that is, I'm going to stop you right there too. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, the other thing that you walk away from is, first of all, knowing how to give feedback, because you're giving feedback to the other people and they're presenting.
Yeah. And you give good and bad.
Right. What did you do well? What would you do differently? Yeah. And then you're getting that feedback. So you learn even the art of giving and receiving feedback, which is great. And so you end up using that, even that skill alone, not even just in facilitation.
And also your videotape. So they videotape your presentations, and then you see yourself.
Secret.
Oh, that was supposed to be a secret. Oh, no.
Secret.
Oh, no.
That terrifies people. You're not supposed to tell that part.
But here's the thing is that part's not as intimidating because it's a small group. I think if it was a group of 20 people, people would freak out. But normally when it's 6 people and you know the people, then and my head starts to spin. So just everybody, that's us as Pool Nation. We're trying to elevate everything that we do. And everybody was scheduled to come out. John, Zach, everybody, the team. Yeah. We even had invited Ashley and Sarah, and we had a couple of other people that were come so that we could be all 6 of us to be able to do the training. And even though I've done it, I was going to do it again because it's such a good one. Maybe what we should do is we should try to do one with just 6 different people. So after we do it, maybe
after you do it the first time,
after we do it the first time, but we'll have to figure it out because it is a little bit expensive to be able to do that and obviously do 3 days. But
man, is it worth it? But it's awesome.
Yeah. So you know what? Let me know if you're interested, and then maybe we'll put a little bit of a list of those people that can take that class. But again, be prepared to give up 3 days of your life, but it's an awesome event.
True upskilling for sure. That you can.
That is a true. Yeah,
that's upskilling, and you can use that everywhere.
Yeah.
Again, if you're talking to one person or 500, it's a skill that you can use.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's this huge confidence builder.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
So let me ask you, because that'll lead me to this question, and then we'll probably call it. Let me ask you specifically, when we're talking about training, we're just talking about train the trainer, which is perfect. So why do you think structure, and whether it's structure, the mentorship, and that guided learning matter so much when people are trying to upskill?
First, you have to have a plan. And if you don't have the structure, you can't really have a plan, because there's no point in doing things willy-nilly, right? Having a strategic plan, putting together your objectives, doing that kind of thing is really important. And then I think as you put that structure together, it allows you to, again, say, here's what you're learning. And then you're going to test it, you're going to try it, you're going to share it. And then, that landing sticks. And then you can continue to grow on that. So let's say you've got a list of 5 things that you need to upskill your people on. You put that plan together, and hopefully each one of those things builds on the other, right? It's not starting with the hardest thing and working your way to the easiest thing, but really building on each other. So really having a plan of what do you want to achieve, putting that structure together. What are you going to teach them? Who's going to teach them? How long is it going to take? When are they going to do it? Is it middle of the day, end of the day, beginning of the day, overtime on the weekend? What are you going to do? Like really having that plan together. But then it lends credibility to that learning. And it also shows that employee that you put enough time and effort and resources together to pull this together for them, whether it's 1 through 5 things that you're teaching them or allowing them to learn through a third party or whatever you're going to do. And it shows them that you have value in them. And then it gives them that elevated kick to want to contribute to the success of your business because you're contributing to their success. And then I would also say, as business owners or leaders of people, it doesn't matter. Make sure that you're tracking what your folks are learning throughout that year and make sure you include that in their performance review at the end of the year. This has been a great year. This is what has happened with the business. This is how you've contributed. This is how you've grown in this past year. I know that you took this class and that class, and then you applied it here, and then we grew our sales here, or whatever that is. But make sure that, you're tying all these nice things together with a bow, because you can teach people all year long, but if they don't hear it in their performance review, that this is what you learned and this is how you applied it and this is how you helped the business and this is what it does to your performance rating, then they might next year think, why bother? So it adds credibility to the process itself.
Last question.
Yeah. Ready.
And I'm going to ask you this one just because it'll be a good question. I know you're on so really good, but if there's one mindset shift that you want people to take away from this conversation today, what would that be?
Growth mindset. So, always a growth mindset. So if there's a mindset shift, and if you don't know what growth mindset, it really is just really being open and growing and asking what else. And so you might think that your business is doing great, and maybe it is. But what else can you do? What else can you get from your employees? What else can you offer to your employees? What else? And that's almost part of that accountability, right? What else can I do to drive the business and to engage my workforce and to recognize and reward my workforce? What else? So I think that question needs to always be on the forefront of your mind. What else can we do? And I think, I'll use you guys an example. And I laugh with John and Janie a lot about this, and Zach when he comes in town. But, you guys have been on this journey for a little over 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're always blown away when we sit and talk about, God, it's only been 5 years. It feels like a long time. But then in a hot minute, it feels, man, that just flew by. And when you look at how you started with an Instagram, and then everybody's pushing for a podcast and da, 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 da. And if you think about where you guys are at now, you guys are constantly asking what else. And because you do that, and you also, solicit from other people, what would you like to see? What do you guys need from pool pros? What would you like to see in the industry? What aren't you getting? Whatever. So you're constantly asking, what else can we do? What else can we do? What else should we do? And I think that has really propelled you to where you guys are now, 5 years later. There's awards and there's boot camps and you're going to the shows and you're holding these classes and you got leadership and you've got the women's summit. And it's all because this whole what else? And then you got the other 2 big pieces of tea that we're not spilling, but which
are going to be big.
They're huge.
Oh,
but that's part of that constantly, that growth mindset of what else should we be doing? And if something doesn't work, you abandon it and move on. Like you got to fail fast.
Yeah.
But you guys do the what else. And that's my recommendation for the one pollers and the business owners. And it doesn't matter, even if your business is going well, what else can you be doing? Because you can
always be doing something better.
You can edge out your competitors. You can always be doing something better or different or new. Again, I go back to whatever keeps you relevant. And I think next time you do something on AI, I think that's going to kick everybody going, hey, I can do this. And it's going to say, what else can I use AI for? It's going to be, I think that's always the question is what else?
Yeah. I love that growth mindset. That's a great point. Hey, let's do this. Let's take a final word from our sponsors. And we never do this when we have visitors in, but you're part of the family. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the final words to you because I got nobody else. So,
I've done final thoughts. I can do it.
There you go.
I can do it.
We'll be right back.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. U.S. Motors Neptune Variable Speed Motor provides a versatile replacement solution for all your pool pump motor needs. This motor can communicate with pool control systems, provide low voltage options to work with time clocks, and can be installed as a standalone pump motor. The Neptune motor can be easily installed on existing pumps, upgrading them to a variable speed pump without the need for replumbing. Enjoy energy savings and quiet operation by installing a Neptune Variable Speed Motor today. For more information and to find your local distributor, visit usmotors.com/pool. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Meet the Pipeline Pump from Aquastar Pool Products, the next generation of variable speed pumps designed for serious efficiency. At its core is a high-performance permanent magnet motor that's totally enclosed and fan-cooled, delivering consistent energy-saving operation. Paired with Aquastar's patented high-efficiency volute design, the Pipeline Pump maintains optimal flow while cutting down on energy use. And it's not just efficient, it's incredibly quiet. Thanks to a high-tech rubber motor mount that absorbs vibrations and dampens sound, the Pipeline runs smooth and quiet by limiting turbulence. Its 2.5-inch internal frame ensures unrestricted water flow, and it's available in both 1.5 HP and 3.0 HP models, each with 2-inch and 2.5-inch union fittings for flexible and efficient installation. Experience the Pipeline difference: incredibly quiet operation, peak efficiency, and proven performance. Ask your supplier for the Pipeline Pump from Aquastar. Available now. Care Solutions, for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation live podcast. Super excited about this podcast today. I was able to do it with Leanne and spend some time out here that we're locked up, right? We're locked up because of the weather out here and the whole rest of the country. I think it was like 40 states. Anyways, so Leanne, let me get your final thoughts.
I think thinking through it, I love that you're asking the question about upskilling and reskilling, because not just to differentiate between the two, because they're very different, right? Same role or going into a whole nother role or a whole nother industry. I think not just knowing the difference between upskilling and reskilling, but really tying to the importance of it, especially when you're looking at the pool industry, of upskilling, because it continues to change, it continues to get better, it continues to get bigger. And it's really this really great growth kind of opportunity. But going back to something I said earlier, I think just putting a label on it so people understand the importance of always looking at where do we need to upskill? Because you can say, what training do we need? What do we need about this? What do we need about that? But that's not the only thing. It's not all about training. It's really just upskilling, really improving the skill set, whether it's you as the business owner or the people that work for you or whatever. I think really recognizing that upskilling is important all the time, and recognizing when you're stagnant, it's time to upskill, or you're overwhelmed, might be time to upskill, or it's time to grow your business and we need to upskill. So I think putting a label on it and having people recognize the importance of it and what it really is and who it touches, because it touches everybody, I think is really important. And I think some industries, some of that might get lost. And I think you saw this in the pool industry, that there really wasn't a lot of training and development in the pool industry. There wasn't a lot of that camaraderie either, right? Where people were helping each other. So I think the importance of people seeing how valuable that is to not only help each other, but to help each other learn and help each other get better and help recognize the need of upskilling is important. So I like that you're going down that path. And it's funny because you guys are helping people upskill all the time, but nobody's actually really called it that.
Yeah. And it's funny because until we started talking about it and hearing it was like, it really clicked. And it's, yeah, there is a lot of upskilling in there. And then it made me think of, oh my God, I need to write a list of my upskilling, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that, sometimes as business owners, right? We just get so busy.
You do.
That a lot of times we don't think about the areas that we need to upskill, and definitely a lot of areas and a lot of opportunities.
Well, and it's funny because I'm in HR and we're so busy helping other people upskill, we forget to do it ourselves.
That's true. That's
so it's just like, and like a business owner might forget because they're so worried about their workforce, they might forget about themselves. So it's important for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Leanne. I really appreciate it. Hey, everybody, join me and John. We'll be back on Wednesday on our Instagram Live. Looking forward to seeing everybody. Have a good one.
Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation Podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at pool.nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to poolinvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. Poolmanuniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at poolmanuniversity.com.